In this tutorial, we will take a look at creating new libraries and lists and creating custom lists. SharePoint's basic means of storing information is accomplished using lists. As you build your site content, you may find you need a new list for storing information, such as a new contact list for vendors, or another document library to store specific documents, or an image library to store pictures from corporate events. A standard SharePoint team site starts you out with a document library and a calendar. However, there are over a dozen different built-in list types that can be added to a site. In addition, you can build your own custom list defining the columns that fit your data. In our first example, we will create a new document library for expense documents in the accounting site. So to get started, the first thing I want to do is navigate to the accounting site. And then to add this new document library, click on Site Actions, then More Options. On the left, I'll choose to filter by libraries, and I'm creating a new document library. So select that, and then I'll click in the name box and type a name in for this new library, and I'm going to call this Expense Reporting Documents. So I've typed the name in for my new library, then I'll click on More Options. A description can be added here in the description box. For navigation, I'll leave that at the default yes to add a link to this library in the Quick Launch list on the left. In the document version history section, we'll choose yes to track version history of changed documents. For document template, you can select the type of document that will be created when you choose to create a new document from within the library rather than upload a document. The default is a Microsoft Word document. Click the drop-down, you'll see there's quite a few options here. And since the purpose of this new library is to store mostly spreadsheets, then we'll select Microsoft Excel as the new document option. And then I'll click the Create button at the bottom, and the new library window opens. Notice when I go to the Document tab and click on New Document, it's defaulting to create a new Excel file just as I had selected when I created the library. Also in the Quick Launch in the left navigation, a link to this new library was added under the Libraries heading. So regardless of where we are in this site, we can get to this library using this link. Next, we'll create a new built-in list. To create a new built-in list, such as a contact list or calendar, you follow the same steps. Let's say I want to add a new calendar on the training department page. They will use this calendar internally to post days they are out of the office for such things as training or vacation. So the first thing I need to do is navigate to the training department. I'll use the Navigate Up button here. And I'll choose Site Actions and then More Options. And this time I'll filter by list. And then I'll choose Calendar as the type of list I want to create. And then I'll click in the name box. And I'm going to name this calendar Employee Schedules. And then I'll click on More Options. And this time for navigation, I'm going to select No, not to display a link to this calendar in the left navigation, since it's just for internal use. And for the group calendar option, again, I'm going to leave this at no, since this calendar is just for internal use. And then I'll click the Create button at the bottom. And my new calendar displays. And you notice in the list section, there is not a link to this employee schedule calendar. So I'll return to the training homepage. And just to show you how the employees would get to that calendar, since there is not a link on the left, they would select the All Site Content link at the bottom of the Quick Launch, and this displays a list of all the libraries and lists in the training site. And in the list section here, you'll see a link to that employee schedules calendar. Just click that link, and you're back in that calendar. Next, we'll take a look at creating a custom list. You will need to create a custom list if none of the built-in list types are similar to the list you want to make. When you create a blank custom list, you add your own columns. A column is a field of information, so the terms column and field are often used interchangeably. For this example, we will create a frequently asked questions list for the IT help desk. So my first step is to navigate to the IT site, and then I'll choose Site Actions and More Options. Then I'll choose to filter by list, and then I'll choose Custom List. Over on the right, click in the name box and give my list a name. And I'm going to call this IT FAQs. And I'll click on More Options. And I'll just leave this navigation option to yes, that I do want to add a link to the FAQ list in the quick launch. So click on the Create button to complete the list. When you initially create a custom list, it contains just one column called Title. So what we will do next is configure additional columns for our FAQ list and even rename the title column. To get started, up on the List tab, we'll click on List Settings. And we'll be working down here in this column section. For our frequently asked questions list, we will need 3 columns. The first being the question column. The second column will be the answer column. And then the third column will be a category. So each question can be related to a specific category, such as software or hardware. To begin with, we have to keep the title field. To the right here, there's a type column which identifies the type of data that can go in that column. For the title field, it's a single line of text, which would work for our question column. So what we'll do is rename this column from title and rename it to question. And in this column definition screen, it shows me the type of information for this column is a single line of text. It is a required column, so information must be entered in this column in order to save the new item. And the maximum number of characters allowed in a field is 255. So I'll choose OK to save the name change. So now you'll see the new name here is question instead of title. So next I need to add a column for the answer to the question. So below the list of columns, I'll click on Create Column. I'll type in the column name, Answer. Next, we choose what type of information will be stored in this new column, just like the question column is a single line of text. For this answer field, we need to be able to enter multiple lines of text. You'll notice there are several types of columns to select from. Other than the single line and multiple lines of text, there are choice columns, which provides a list of choices for the user to select from, number columns, date, yes, no column. So this is going to be a multiple lines of text column. In the number of lines for editing, just indicates how many lines of the field will display without having to open the entire item. The default is 6 lines, so I'm just going to leave that at the default. Next, you select the type of text to allow to be entered in this answer text field. You have plain text, which would not allow any kind of formatting or links. Rich text, which does allow formatting, text alignment, and hyperlinks. And then there's enhanced rich text, which allows the formatting as well as pictures, tables, and hyperlinks, which could be helpful if you want to include a screenshot or an image to assist with the answer. So I'm going to leave this at enhanced rich text. And then I'll choose OK to save the changes. So now you can see the answer column has been added, and to the right here, it lets me know that it is a multiple line of text field. So we need to add one more column to the list, and this is for category. So again, I'll click on Create Column. I'll type in the column name as category. And the type of information for this column is going to be multiple choice. We're going to present a list of choices for the users to select from. In this Require section, I can choose to require that this column contains information before it allows a user to save a new entry. Since I want every question to be related to a category, I will change this to yes. For the Enforce Unique Values, if I select yes to enforce unique values, then I could only use each choice once, which would not work for how this column is being used. And in this text box is where we type all the choices that we want to display for the categories. So as the sample information displays, each category or each choice must be entered on a separate line. So here are the 4 choices that I'm going to provide for category. And in this section, we could choose how these choices are displayed. The default option is as a drop-down menu. You could also select radio buttons or check boxes, which would allow you to select one or more of the choices. But I'll leave this at the default as a drop-down menu. And you can also choose to have a default value in this field. And it always chooses the first choice in your list. And you could use any value that you want, but I'm going to have this actually appear blank. I don't want a default value. And that's it. And I'll scroll to the bottom and choose OK to save my settings. So now you see the category column has been added as a choice type column. And as indicated in this last column, both the question and the category are required fields. The order of the columns that you see here are the same order that they will be presented to the users when they're filling out one of these FAQ forms. And I'd really prefer the category was the second field following the question. So to change their order, down below here, I'll click on column ordering. And I just have to change the position of the category field. Instead of position 3, I'm going to make that position 2. And it bumps it up here in the second position. Then I'll click OK to save. And you can see here in the column list it's changed as well, putting category in the second position. So let's go take a look at our list that we just created. So I'll click on the list name up here in the breadcrumb trail. And here is the empty list with the column names across the top. So I'll click on Add New Item. And you notice the order of the fields are what I had selected, with category being the second field. The red asterisk next to question and category indicate they are required. So I'll fill in the question and the category. So here's my question: how do I attach a file to a list item? Which is a software related question. So when I click the drop down here, I'll select software. And then I'll add the answer. You'll notice after I click inside this answer field, being an enhanced rich text field, all the formatting buttons lit up at the top here in the format text ribbon. And if I click on insert, you'll see it provides me with buttons to insert a table, picture, hyperlink, or even upload a file. So then I'll click save. That returns me to the list and I'll see this first item I created.